Welcome to Byte-Sized Tech. This week, we're diving into the good, the bad, and the pretty costly in the world of tech. We're talking shiny new phones with some not-so-shiny problems, AI that's supposed to help but might just be making things worse. And we're going to take a look at the hidden fights for your money and your data. All right, let's get right into it. We're starting with the hardware that everyone's talking about, and, well, it sounds like the launch has been a bit of a bumpy ride. So, Apple's latest hardware launch has been a real mixed bag. I mean, on one hand, you've got some really impressive new features, but on the other, they're getting totally overshadowed by some seriously frustrating problems for the folks who bought them first. You know, at first glance, the value here looks incredible. For that same $799, you get double the storage and that smooth 120Hz display we've all been waiting for. But that cons list, that's where the real story is. Beyond the specs, early adopters are running into some major real-world headaches. And this is a big one. People are saying their brand new phones are dropping calls and just can't hold a stable connection. There seems to be this one really nasty bug that makes the Wi-Fi cut out whenever the phone is locked. Now, that might not sound like a huge deal, but if you use wireless CarPlay, it's an absolute nightmare because it relies on that Wi-Fi to work at all. And then you've got the physical phone itself. Almost right after launch, the internet started flooding with reports about the new aluminum finish getting scuffed and scratched way too easily. The problem got so big it already has its own name, Scratchgate. And the damage seems to be happening mostly around that new camera bump, which is just not a great look for such a pricey device. So what's actually causing this? Well, the experts over at iFixit put the phone under a microscope. They talked to a mechanical engineer, David Newbor, and he basically explained that the problem comes from the really sharp edge of that camera bump. The process they use to protect the metal creates a weak, uneven layer on that sharp corner, and that can lead to spalling, which is just a fancy word for chips and flakes of the finish breaking off. It's really a classic case of a cool design choice having some bad, unforeseen consequences. So the hardware has its issues, but what about the software running on it? AI promises to make our lives so much easier, but as we're about to see, it can also create a whole new kind of problem. A new report from Harvard Business Review has kind of pinpointed the dark side of AI at work, and they gave it the perfect name, work slop. And this isn't just about bad AI art you see online. This is specifically about those half-baked documents and reports full of errors that get generated at the office. You know, the ones that promise to save you time but actually end up costing you more time because a human has to go in and clean up the mess. And this really gets to the heart of what they're calling the AI paradox. Because on one hand, the promise is genuinely amazing. I mean, look at Google's new photo editing. You can just tell it, hey, remove that person who photobombed my picture, and boom, it's done. That's the magic we were all hoping for. And we're seeing this potential pop up everywhere. GoPro just released a new gimbal with AI that automatically locks onto your face and follows you around. Google's launching Search Live, where you can have a full-on conversation with Search using your voice and camera. AI is being baked into everything, and it's all promising this perfectly smooth, super efficient future. But here's the reality check. A recent study found that the super powerful new ChatGPT-5 is factually wrong about 1 in 4 times. 25%. Just think about that in a work environment. If a quarter of the info your AI assistant spits out is just plain wrong, how much time are you really saving? So that's the crucial point. This unreliability is exactly what turns that promise of effortless productivity into a huge, time-consuming chore. The tool is powerful enough to generate a ton of stuff, but it's not always quality stuff. And that gap between quantity and quality, that's where work slop lives, and it just drags down the very thing it was supposed to improve. All of this new tech is forcing a conversation that we really need to have about the rules that govern all of it. And right now, there's a huge fight brewing over who controls your data and, how companies get your money. One of the biggest battlegrounds here is subscription services, and the U.S. Federal Trade Commission, the FTC, is taking aim directly at Amazon. They're claiming that Amazon has been using these deceptive designs known as dark patterns to trick millions of people into signing up for a Prime subscription they didn't want. And here's a little detail from the FTC's filing that shows just how deliberate this might have been. Amazon's own employees had a nickname for the cancellation process. They called it the Iliad. Yeah, you heard that right. Named after that epic poem about the Trojan War that lasted for a decade. When your own team calls canceling a subscription a war, you kind of know it wasn't designed to be easy. So the FTC alleges this multi-step Iliad flow is basically an intentional maze. It bombards you with offers, keeps reminding you of all the cool benefits you're about to lose, and shuffles you through several pages, all designed to make you just give up. And apparently the final confirmation is so confusing that a lot of people think they've canceled when they really haven't. The FTC is arguing that this is a clear violation of consumer protection laws.
And it's not just the federal government either. States are starting to write their own rulebooks for the internet. For example, a new law in Arizona is going to require a lot of websites to start verifying your age. This is part of a bigger trend. 22 states now have laws like this. And while the goal is to protect kids, critics are raising some huge red flags about the massive privacy risks of forcing everyone to share their personal data, creating these huge new targets for hackers.
So all of this innovation, from smarter AI to more powerful phones and all these new rules, it all comes at a literal cost. And it looks like that cost is about to get passed on directly to you.
A new report, citing sources in the supply chain, is claiming that TSMC, that's the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, is jacking up the price of its next-gen chips. We're talking about the cutting-edge 2-nanometer chips that are going to power the next wave of tech. And the price increase? A mind-blowing 50%.
So why should this matter to you? Well, because TSMC makes the chips for practically everyone. Apple, Nvidia, AMD, you name it. They are the absolute bedrock of high-end tech. A 50% price hike on the most basic building block means that future phones, laptops, and graphics cards are almost certainly going to get more expensive.
Which kind of brings us to the big question, right? From scratched phones and AI work slop to subscription traps and soaring prices, the cost of all this progress is getting a lot clearer. We all want smarter, more powerful technology, but are we really prepared for the price we have to pay? Not just with our wallets, but with our time, our privacy, and our trust? Definitely something to think about. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, comment, share, and subscribe.